What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise post-game show powered by BetUS. Today, the Portland Trail Blazers get a road win over the Houston Rockets. One night after last night's embarrassing loss, the Blazers bounce back, get into a scuffle, get into a tussle. Anthony Simons does some instigating, and then Anthony Simons silences the Houston Rockets in what might have been his best game of the season. He's back, and he won this game for Portland down the stretch, man. This was a hard-fought victory for the Portland Trail Blazers. They win 104-98. How's everybody doing? Let me know in the chat. This is going to be a solo stream. Eric won't be here tonight, but we will take your calls for the second half of the show. So if you want to call in, make sure you join our Discord. The link is at the top of the description box below, and you can call in with the call-in feature once that segment starts. I would like to hear from some new people. This is our third call-in post-game show of the year, but this is going to be a fun game to break down because you had some good moments from Blazer players. You had some stifling defense. You had some Denny Avdia. This might have been his best game just with what he did defensively and the way he sparked this team. You had Anthony Simons bouncing back, like I said. You had Shaedon Sharpe shooting the three ball well. Donovan Clingan had one of the weirdest stat lines of the night. You even had Fred VanVleet going after a ref, putting his finger in his face like he was going to fight him and getting ejected after he had an awful foul baiting attempt on a three. That was some disgusting stuff. But you know the NBA, they call that stuff, so can't really blame him for that. But he goes after a ref, gets ejected. And of course you had the Dillon Brooks scuffle after Dillon Brooks got upset about a basketball play. Because that's what Dillon Brooks does. So if you follow me on Twitter, you know how I feel about Dillon Brooks. I had some choice words for him on my Twitter feed. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. There's a link in the description box below. But I'm super excited to break down all of the chaos that happened tonight because this game was very chaotic. Normally, I never like playing the same team twice in a row, but this was definitely one of the most entertaining games of the entire season. This was one of those hard-fought battles. I just wish it could have happened last night and the Blazers could have been 2-0 in Cup standings, but we'll take them where we get them. I mean, the Blazers have won a third of the games they won last year. They're 7-10 now on the season. Of course, last year they were 21-61. So 7-10, record's not too bad, considering how tough this early season schedule is for the Portland Trail Blazers. And this team is just going to yo-yo back and forth, it seems like, which, you know, is better than past years. At least better than last year where they consistently sucked. It's funny because after that 45-point blowout loss to the Memphis Grizzlies, the Blazers, of course, bounced back. The Blazers bounced back and beat the Timberwolves the next game. After last night's blowout loss to the Rockets, they bounce back against the Rockets and win this game and have some big clutch moments. And there's a lot to talk about from this game. Give me your thoughts on this game. We may do a player of the game chat poll in a bit. But yeah, like I said, no Eric today. Sucks for Eric because he's one of the biggest Anthony Simons fans out there. And Ant finally has a solid game. And Eric isn't here to enjoy it with us. But we can still enjoy it ourselves. We first got to talk about that scuffle. We first got to talk about some extracurricular activities. I'll just be honest, man. I have never liked Dillon Brooks. Now, I'm not a University of Oregon fan, okay? I'll tell you that. I'm not an Oregon fan, so didn't like him for that reason. But even if I was an Oregon fan, man, that dude does way too much. That dude does way too much. So Shaedon Sharpe going after a board, collides with Dillon Brooks, upends him. Dillon Brooks gets into Sharpe's face, and I want to know what Sharpe said back to him because Sharpe is, as we know, one of the chillest guys, never has much to say. So I would love to know what Sharpe said. But this game got chippy late, man, and the Blazers responded, and that's what I love. I love that Anthony Simons stood up for Shaedon Sharpe and stood toe-to-toe with Dylan Brooks. Now, of course, this is the NBA, so guys don't really throw punches, not that often at least. So this was never one of those fights that was going to involve punches being thrown. But when a guy gets up and steps into your teammate's face, I love just the reaction that, nah, we're not taking that shit. We're not going to take that. And, okay, all right, we can scuffle a little bit. We can shove a little bit. We can look tough. We can look tough. We're not going to back down from your antics. You're all salty because you can't handle a basketball play being made on you. I mean, Sharp goes for a rebound, upends Dylan Brooks. Yes, it was a hard fall, but there's nothing dirty about that at all. Nothing dirty about that at all. But of course, Dylan Brooks, who loves to talk trash and was staring down Shaedon Sharp every time he made a bucket, and he's just one of the most extra guys in the league. Of course, that guy is going to have a problem with being fouled hard anytime he's ever fouled hard, and takes issue with it. And listen, the extracurricular stuff, you don't back down from that. If somebody wants to instigate something, you instigate back. All right, we can do that. And that's what Anthony Simons said in his post-game press conference. Anthony Simons said, I kind of like to instigate. Something along those lines, which I love that quote, and he's laughing about it. Yeah, I mean, it's basketball, right? This isn't a street fight, but somebody gets in the face of your teammate, stand up for your teammate, and have their back. Because your teammate should be like family, and that's what Ant said, and I love that from Anthony Simons. Denny Avdia was in that too. I love that from him. And I love that this is a team that, would at least have each other's backs. But this scuffle happened with, 2.5 minutes left in the game, and it was a close game. And it was funny because, I'm rooting for the Blazers, but after last night's loss, okay, it's a rebuilding year, we'll probably end up tanking at the end of it. After that scuffle, it was like, let's beat these freaking punks, man. Let's beat these punks, right? They're getting all salty, they're getting all mad, let's beat them. And that seemed to be the Blazers' attitude. And I was very curious after that scuffle to see if Ant put the game on his back and took over, which he hasn't done this year. He just hasn't done. We've talked about it at length. He has struggled mightily this season. Has been really inefficient, turnover prone, and just didn't seem to be mentally locked in, so to say. And after that scuffle with Ant going toe-to-toe with Dylan Brooks, I was wondering, man, maybe this is what Ant needs. Ant needs a little bit of feistiness. Ant needs a little bit of a scuffle, right? After all, he is a Florida man. You don't want to mess with him. And Simons responded because we know he's capable of scoring the ball. We know he's capable of putting the offense on his back for stretches. Okay, just because he hasn't done it this year doesn't mean that all of a sudden he's lost all his talent and ability to do so. And last year, he was one of the better offensive players in the league. I mean, he averaged 22 points per game, 5.5 assists on solid above-average efficiency, dealing with a ton of defensive attention. Who Anthony Simons has been this year is not who Anthony Simons is as a player. He's been in a slump. He's been struggling. He hasn't been mentally locked in. And to see him not only stand up for Sharp, but then to bury the Rockets in the ground, stick them with a dagger sidestep 3 to put the Blazers up 99-96 was poetry. It was beautiful. And it had me so hyped, man, because Simons, you can tell he's putting a lot of pressure on himself to be the guy, and, he's definitely struggling with the slump that he's been in. So to see him get right after that scuffle and let his play do the talking and bury that Houston team, and then to watch them basically cry their way off the floor. Oh, beautiful stuff, man. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Hopefully this is just what Ant needed. Maybe Ant should get in more scuffles. I don't know. But There's certain guys that when games get feisty or there's a scuffle or somebody's pulling the stuff that Dylan Brooks does, where they respond to it with their play. Dame was always one of those guys. You never wanted to poke the bear with Dame. Okay? I just love that was Anthony Simons tonight. I love that, man. Because we've questioned some of his defensive effort at times this season. We've questioned some of his body language at times this season. And it's, this team has had a couple of games where they seem to have no pride and have really poor effort. And on those post-game shows, what do I say? I always come on here on the post-game show and say, have some freaking pride. Show some heart. Even if you lose, play your ass off. Have some pride in yourself as an athlete, as a competitor. Have some pride in your performance. The Blazers can walk off that floor proud tonight after the way they just scrapped with the Houston Rockets in the way they responded to Dylan Brooks and his childish antics. Love it, man. Shout out to VFO, $2 Canadian donation, says, has this game changed your opinion on Ant? One game is never going to change my opinion on Ant. Ant has really struggled. I have soured on him due to those struggles a little bit because this was the year he was supposed to take a step up, and instead he's taken a step back so far. But he's clearly not as bad as he's been. Now, for people that have an agenda against Anthony Simons, his struggles are full vindication for them. See, he's a sixth man. He can't start. All the narratives. There's a ton of narratives about Anthony Simons. He's a polarizing player for the fan base, and I'm sure Ant hears that noise, and it doesn't help, right? But the truth is always somewhere in the middle between the biggest Ant fan and the biggest Ant hater. And he's a gifted scorer. And there's a huge mental side to the game of basketball, and we try and talk about that a lot. There's a huge mental side to sports in general as an athlete. And he obviously was not mentally right. But he didn't mentally back down from that challenge. He rose to the occasion. And after how in a funk he's been all season long, to see that is maybe my favorite thing that's happened this season. So I love that. One game should never change your opinion on a player. It's too small of a sample size. Delano Banton in one game can look like the greatest player ever, and then the next game can look like the worst player ever. I mean, so if you're basing your opinion on Delano Banton on one game, you're either going to think he should deserve a max or shouldn't be in the league. But yeah, that was sick. That was sick, man. This team fought. We cannot understate Denny Avdia's contribution to this game. And if you just look at the box score at the end of this game, I mean, his stat line is impressive. 33 minutes, 4 for 8 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3. Nice to see him hitting threes. He's been hitting threes lately. He finally seems to have found his shot again. 14 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 blocks, and a steal. But I think that stat line undersells the plays that he made in this game. He probably should have finished with 6 or 7 assists. He had multiple dimes to teammates. The way he scrapped on the board, this team is a better rebounding team with Denny Avdia in the game. 10 rebounds, you love to see that. But there was a stretch in this game where he was playing point guard and guarding Houston's center. Of course, Uprise Şengün, probably the best player on their team. He had 22, but 7 for 17 tonight. Klingon did a good job guarding him. Klingon ended up tweaking his knee or something, and apparently he could have returned, but he didn't in the fourth quarter, so sounds like he's fine, and I'll talk about his impact a little bit later. But Denny Avdia playing point and then guarding Alperen Şengün gets a clutch time block on him. And that's why I like Denny Avdia, and that's why I keep saying just be patient, let him figure it out, because that's a dude that battles. That's a dude that'll constantly play his ass off, and that's a dude that does little things. And to be able to have somebody that can bring up the ball, because you don't have Scoot Henderson, so you only have one point guard, really, and that's Anthony Simons, and he's more of a combo guard, so you want him playing off the ball sometimes, catch and shoot, making plays. You need more ball handling in there. To be able to have a 6'8", 6'9" guy that can handle the ball, pass the ball, rebounds really well, and then can guard centers or point guards, can guard every position, is a really, really useful player to have on the team, especially on the contract that Avdija is on. Unfortunately, the way players play is too often just based upon, oh, are you making shots or are you not? And Avdija on the season has not been efficient. Going into this game, 37% from the field, 26% from three, right? But he's not necessarily taking bad shots. He's doing the little things. He's playing defense. He's rebounding. He's doing a bunch of other things well. And it's funny because a large section of Blazer fans are tired of the type of player who can only have a positive impact when they're making shots and don't do anything else. And I understand that, right? You want guys that they can have a positive impact upon games even when they're missing shots, because sometimes you're going to miss shots. Okay, so when those times happen, are you still helping your team? Are you still contributing? And that's what I've said with Deni Avdija. Despite his poor efficiency this season, 1, it's a slump. 2, he's in a new situation. 3, the stagnant offense doesn't really serve him the best. 4, last year he was better when he had the ball in his hands a little bit more, and he hasn't really been used like that a whole lot this season. Okay, 5, he does all the little things. He does everything you would want from a guy at a forward spot, defensively on the boards, how hard he plays, the way he passes, the way he can handle the ball. And he had one of the most impressive two-way sequences and back-to-back possessions that I've seen all season long. He gets a block. 4 blocks in this game. Goes down the other way, has just an insane full speed behind the back wraparound move to get to the rim, and has a really nice finish. And he smoked that finish a little too much this year, right? So really nice finish. I might be saying this out of order, but these are the 4 plays. He had a play where he's diving on the floor for a loose ball, and then finds Delano Banton for a open 3 on a play where Avdija isolated Şengün, drove to the middle, pump fake, spun back, drew 4 defenders to him, and had his choice of shooters that he could kick out to. Right? How often do we see forwards, they drive middle and they just try and shoot like a little running hook against the center or against their defender, and sometimes it might go in, but like they're shooting a shot, and if not, they're just passing it the direction they're going. Nah, I like Avdija because he's more measured when he gets downhill and into the paint. And it hasn't necessarily yielded the best results, but he takes his time. Gets to the middle of the paint, pump fake, spins back, sees the whole floor, passes it back to Banton, who was behind the way he was driving. Right? Sees the floor. And that stretch, man, 2 big defensive plays and generates 5 straight points just off of one, just a really impressive move for a guy that big in transition at full speed to get to the rim, and then a really nice pass, really nice kick out to Banton. Love it. And he's starting to figure it out. He's still not to the point that he was at last year, scoring the ball, but you can see he's getting more confident. And you can tell, if you watch this game and you go back and look at his first couple of games in Portland, he definitely was struggling with his confidence. And he's definitely playing with a little bit more confidence right now, which is really good to see, because there's a reason why Joe Cronin gave up the 14th pick in last year's draft, a future first, and Malcolm Brogdon for Deni Avdija. And people that weren't familiar with Avdija, that are Blazer fans, probably think he sucks because he can't make anything. But he's slowly starting to figure it out. He's 2 for 3 from 3 tonight. He's made a 3 in 6 straight games. Okay, the last 6 games, These are his shooting numbers from 3. He was 3 for 6, 1 for 2, 2 for 4, 1 for 3, 1 for 3, 2 for 3. In the month of November, he's 34% from 3. The last 6 games, I don't know what that is, but that's close to 50%. It's a shade under 50%, so he's getting to the line a ton recently. Had 6 free throw attempts in this game. He's a good player, man, and if he starts to figure it out, fans are going to realize, yeah, this dude makes an impact in every way because he can make an impact as a scorer. He just hasn't gotten there yet in a Blazer uniform. Anyway, chat, I'll take a break. I'll, of course, break down more players, but leave your questions, leave your chat comments in the live chat. I'll read off a few of them. James Yang says Simon's laughing at Brooks was epic. Yeah, man. The broadcast said this, and I agree. It was good to just see Ant smile. I talked about it, like, he missed, 3 games with, an illness. I believe it was more so, mentally struggling with the pressure that he's putting on himself, is what I heard. And it's tough, right? He starts his career under Dame. Dame gets traded. Dame says Ant is next up, basically, in his farewell message. And Ant last season was the guy, but you got some young guards behind you. So, you got some guys that are coming for your job if you don't maintain that level of play. And, Ant is definitely a guy that cares. I feel like people get it twisted when they say he doesn't care. Like, he's obviously a guy that cares about his performance. And it was good to see him get right, so to say, in this game. And I wouldn't be surprised if later on in the season we look back at this game as the game that Ant figured it all out. It was also good to see Jeremy Grant actually have a good shooting night and a good game. 20 points in the first half for Grant. It's funny because he finishes with 22, so he was just basically a non-factor in the second half offensively. But he only shot 4 times. He's 5 for 8 from the field at halftime with 20 points, which is crazy. 4 for 5 from 3 at halftime, finished 4 for 7. But it was just good to see the 3-point shot go down for Jeremy Grant. It's like, this Blazers team is 7-10, worst offense in the league, which is kind of wild in the first place. But then, the fact that they're 7-10 with how bad Grant has been scoring the ball and how bad Ant has been scoring the ball is surprising. Denny has had his struggles. You're talking about veteran players on their second contract just really struggling. And the Blazers were able to win this game because of Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant and Shane Sharp and Avdia. Everybody else offensively was pretty much a non-factor. Klingon didn't score. He was a factor in other ways, but he didn't score. Tamani was 2 for 10. He was a big negative offensively today. His defense is still great, but rough couple of games from him. He's in a little bit of a shooting slump, but that was bound to happen. He's still right around 40% from 3, upper 30s. You'll take that with a dude that defensively gifted. Banton, 2 for 9. His hot streak has ended, it seems. He'll probably have another one soon, but his hot streak has ended. He did have 5 assists and 1 turnover, so I like that from him, but 2 for 9 from the field. Chris Murray was 3 for 7, 1 for 4 from 3. Not the best game from him. You got a lot of guys that weren't really a factor. It was the guys that have been struggling. Avdia, Grant, Simons. And then Sharp, 7 for 18. He didn't even have an efficient night. It was nice to see him make some threes, 4 for 9, but he shot a few too many mid-range jumpers, in my opinion, this game. So it's just nice to see guys that were struggling step up, and hopefully this can be a sign of things to come, because even if you don't think that Jeremy Grant or Anthony Simons have a future on this team, and I don't think Jeremy Grant has a future on this team. I think he should be traded at the deadline. If the Blazers are going to trade Jeremy Grant, they're going to want something back. And if Jeremy Grant continues to struggle, it's going to be much harder for the Blazers to get something back, and it makes it more likely that Jeremy Grant is a Blazer at the end of the season. And maybe into the offseason, maybe into next year. Okay? So even if you think that, Jeremy's shots should be going to, I don't know, Chris Murray. I kid a little bit, but, a lot of people say it's Sharp's team. Like, get out of the way. That's their attitude. If you want to trade Anthony Simons, you kind of need Anthony Simons to play well. You kind of need Anthony Simons to have games like this to rebuild his trade value. Right? So we should all be rooting for these guys to figure it out. We should all be rooting for these guys to have some big games. Matt Cardell says him and Sharp had that 7-0 run. Yeah, it was nice to see those two, like, score consecutively, which I know sounds like nothing, sounds like a small thing. We just haven't seen much of those two guys together, it feels like. You know, Ant was injured at the start of last year, and then Sharp had his injury problems last season. So we haven't seen those two together a ton. So it's nice to see them playing off each other a little bit, because I still think they're building their chemistry together. Grant for Jabari Smith Jr. I don't think Houston is interested in that, but I would take it at this point. Never been the biggest Jabari Smith guy. Garben says, right, I want to see the guards play together so bad. Yeah, I mean, it's... Unfortunately, Scoot's missing time. He got in a car accident. He got rear-ended. That's just unlucky. But, you know, Scoot was having his struggles recently, so that's the next guy, you know, when he's back. It sounds like he's going to be all right and might return next game. That's one of those guys that has been struggling a little bit offensively, and hopefully he can be the next guy to have a bounce-back game for the Blazers. Chat, let me know who you want me to talk about next. I'll continue to read your comments. Once again, if you're just joining the show, no Eric tonight, but we will take your calls in the second half of the show in about 30 minutes. And if you want to call into the show, make sure you join the Discord server. And when we start taking call-ins, you can just click into the call-in tab and we can take calls. And if we have a bunch of people, I'll try and make them go fast so we can get all of you in. Taylor Packer says, I've missed the lobs while Scoot has been out. His playmaking has been noticeably missing. Yeah, I mean, the half-court offense, you know, it was not necessarily good by any means with Scoot. It was still statistically bad, but at least you could have some, like, he would create some good shots. Some alley-oop dunks, could collapse the defense, put pressure on the defense. Without Scoot, the last couple of games, the offense can go into such lulls. You know, even with Grant and Ant and Avdia having good offensive games, they still only scored 104 points tonight. And Scoot being able to put the pressure on the defense, open up things for guys with his passing, especially those lob passes, is definitely missing from this offense, for sure. Also, Scoot has been solid defensively. Tristan says the biggest thing for me about Denny is him thinking that he is a great passer. He tries to play make and does terrible, and his passing is also terrible. No, that is not true at all, bro. That's not true at all. You think his passing is terrible? Today, he should have had probably 6 or 7 assists. He makes a couple bad passes. Anybody who tries to pass the ball is going to make a couple of bad passes. Multiple players on this team make bad passes. Last year, Avdia averaged about 4 assists per game, and more when he was allowed to handle the ball, bring the ball up the floor. He's not a bad passer by any means. He's a good passer for a forward. Yes, he has awful vision. That is just not true. You're entitled to your opinion, of course, but nobody with awful vision is driving from the left side of the floor, pump faking in the middle of the lane, and turning back to the left side of the floor for a quick kick-out pass. Taylor sums it up perfectly. I think calling him a bad passer is crazy. I do think he takes a lot of risks, though. He's a very aggressive playmaker. That's exactly how I'd summarize it. Don't get that confused with bad. He makes some mistakes because of how aggressive he is. But there's also really good moments. That kick-out pass to Chris Murray for that second 3, which was funny because right before that, he had a kick-out pass to Chris Murray for a wide-open 3 that Murray missed. I mean, it's funny because he had a turnover last game where Sharp had a back cut that would have been a dunk if he took it because he was being overplayed. And Denny had to point for him to back cut, maybe yell at him to back cut. And finally, Sharp back cuts. But because Denny's pointing, Amen Thompson can see the pass because the pass is telegraphed because Denny is having to point Shaedon Sharp where to cut. So then Denny gets a turnover because he tries to force the pass, but that was on Sharp. Sharp should have back cut when he started getting overplayed last game. Last game, the Blazers were really stagnant with their cutting. So, yeah, Denny takes some risks. He's very aggressive, but I kind of like that. It's different. I'd rather have somebody that's aggressive, can push the ball in transition, can get to the line, like drives strong, gets the ball into the paint. I'd rather have that than somebody that is timid. Than somebody that just wants to give the ball up to Anthony Simons and then go stand in the corner and watch him isolate. Or give the ball up to Jeremy Grant 15 feet away from the rim and then just like go and stand and watch. So, yeah. I think there's times where he looks really rough because of how aggressive he is, but that shouldn't be confused with thinking that he is a bad passer. He does need to make more layups though. But you know, we talked about his shot making. I think it'll come around. And I'm enjoying the other stuff with him right now. Donovan Clingan today had a wild stat line. Wild stat line. 0 points, 19 rebounds, 9 offensive rebounds, 3 blocks, 0 for 4 from the field in 26 minutes. Plus 3, though. He had a huge impact on the defense in this game. Şengün struggled to score against him. And that's the thing. Like, Şengün's a guy that is one of the most offensively gifted centers in the league. He's averaging 18 points, 11 boards, almost 5 assists. Against Clingan, he looked like just another guy. Clingan at times made Alperen Şengün look like Alex Len. And that's what's nice about having a guy like Clingan, man, is he can actually bother gifted offensive setters. You know, I feel like that's something we've always struggled with. I'm really excited to hopefully see Clingan play against Jokic whenever the Blazers played the Nuggets. Unfortunately, DeAndre Ayton is probably going to be back. When is the first game against the Nuggets? Let me look. The 19th of December. So a little bit more than a month. But I want to see Clingan guard the best centers in the league. I want to see him guard Embiid. I want to see him guard Jokic. He still needs to get stronger with his base. He still needs to hopefully get a little bit more mobile. But he's blocking shots at a higher rate than Victor Wembanyama right now. He's also deterring guys. He's just having a big impact on this defense, on this rim protection that last year was awful. And just to have that elite skill in a rookie is really nice to have. I also think he doesn't necessarily get the benefit of the doubt with the whistle, and hopefully he builds a reputation, and one day we'll get more of the benefit of the doubt with the whistle. Garben says it perfectly. Refs hate how good Clingan is. Yeah, it's like rookies aren't supposed to impact defense like this. I also just wonder, man, how much do NBA refs make it hard on rookies? Because it always feels like if you're a rookie, you never get the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you're a star, you get so much benefit of the doubt. And I wonder, man, like how much are rookies punished by NBA refs for no reason? There's a comment that says, problem is he is big and refs just assume with his size that he fouled. That's the problem with NBA refs. They assume. They assume things. That's why shot goes up, they don't blow their whistle, and then it misses, and, oh, the shot missed. Okay, I'll blow a foul now. Garben says, dude, I do not like Şengün's ball don't lie to Tamani after he yanked his jersey. Yeah, Şengün got pissed, man. You could tell at the end of the game, Şengün got pissed. Kamara drew an offensive foul. Like, he was just trying to bully Kamara at the end of that game. You could tell he was mad. Amen Thompson was mad. I'm an Amen fan. And then Thompson was pissed off. Fred VanVleet. Okay, can we just talk about how that was one of the worst attempts at drawing a foul I've ever seen? Like, in no way was that a foul, number one. He runs into the defender and then just chucks the ball at the rim in transition. Like, maybe SGA gets that call. I don't even think SGA gets that call. I don't understand why he was so pissed off at the ref on something that was obviously not a foul. You got Dillon Brooks getting pissed off about a basketball play that was called a foul. And then you got Fred VanVleet getting pissed off at the ref. Fred VanVleet walks up to the ref after he gets ejected and puts his finger in his face, pointing at him like he's gonna do something. Bro, you ain't gonna do nothing to a ref. Maybe you should try. We'll see how long that suspension is. I mean, that was just silly. That was just silly stuff by the Rockets at the end there, man. Listen, we always hate the Lakers. But since OKC got disbanded, we hated OKC with Russ. There's not a team in the West that I really, truly hate right now. If the Rockets want to be that team, then by all means, they can be that team. We can get that Rockets rivalry back. Of course, last time we played them in the playoffs, we dusted them off. Shout out to LaMarcus Aldridge. Because I don't like Dillon Brooks, and they were way too salty for no reason today. I get it, you're mad you lost, of course, but the stuff there, it was just weird. It was just a weird ending to that game. I don't hate the Rockets. It's just Dillon Brooks. I get it. I'm an Ahmed fan. Nothing against Schengen. Just teams that get like whiny like that for no reason, it just grind my gears. Garbin says, yeah, I hate the Warriors the most too. I mean, I don't know. Like, they're good right now. Draymond, you love to hate him. I'll miss having Draymond in the league just because he's a walking storyline. Atlas says F OKC. Why this OKC team? SGA is a little bit annoying, but like they don't do weird stuff. They're just really good. He also says F the Lakers, Golden State. I get those two. F the Kings and the Grizzlies. Why the Kings? what? Why the Kings? The Kings are like the last in terms of my hate list of Western Conference teams. I don't get that. But listen, everybody is going to have teams that they hate, so I'm just curious as to why. Because, I don't know, I just view the Kings as just kind of an afterthought. Garbin says, you were right, Tori. Amen Thompson is sick. Too bad he's our new nemesis. Yeah, it would be nice to have Amen Thompson. He's phenomenal. 0.1% athlete. Let's talk a little bit about, let's see, Shaedon Sharpe. So, I tweeted this out. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, you're missing out. So, Shaedon Sharpe is much better getting to the rim when he's on the move and has a lane in front of him. And the two instances where that is the case is transition and curling off of pin down screens. We've talked about it before, how good Sharpe looks on curls. He doesn't really get enough of them, in my opinion. But in both those situations, he's already on the move, and, when he curls off a screen and defender's trailing, he normally has a lane and had a really nice finish. One of his three makes inside the arc this game. Had a really nice finish off a curl. And it's because it allows him to load up and use his athleticism around the rim to finish, and he doesn't have to beat somebody off the dribble if he's curling off a screen and defender's trailing, or if he's in transition and has a lane in front of him and can just accelerate into that lane. Sharpe is definitely struggling with creating out of ISO. He's definitely struggling beating his defender off the dribble. He doesn't have the quickest first step. He also needs to get stronger I think he gets too off balance whenever there's contact and he falls a little bit too much. We've seen that in the past couple of games. And this conversation, the point of it is to talk about what does Shaedon Sharpe need to do to become a star, right? And if he wants to become the best version of himself, he needs to improve his ability to break down a defender and create out of isolation situations. While I lament how much the Blazers play out of isolation, even the best ball movement teams, you're going to have instances where you're going to want to play out of isolation, maybe to attack a mismatch, or maybe somebody has it going, or a play breaks down. You got to be able to score out of isolation in basketball, okay? You just don't want to over-rely upon it. Sharpe right now, he definitely isn't where he needs to be a legit star in isolation, which is completely fine. He's 21, okay? This is more so constructive stuff, constructive criticism. This is not negativity. Although some people out there think any constructive criticism is negativity and hate and blah, blah, blah. You know, that's just the way the internet works. But he definitely struggles to beat his defender off the dribble. First step isn't necessarily the quickest, but also I think it's because there's just times where you can tell he's trying to get downhill. And I want him to use the threat of his three-point shot a little bit more. Now, he needs to become a better three-point shooter off the dribble. And you could tell in this game, like, Houston was giving him three-point shots off the dribble. And he was 4 for 9 on them. He took them. He had that nice between-the-legs step back. And the Rockets were definitely taking away the drive and not fully taking away the three. And in those situations, Sharpe has to knock down threes. And if he becomes a good enough three-point shooter, especially off the dribble, and gets a reputation for that, then it's going to force teams to guard him even tighter, and it's going to be easier for him to beat guys off the dribble. Then all of a sudden, if he starts to mix in hesitation moves off of some of his off-dribble jumper moves, like that between-the-leg step back, if he can work in a hesitation off that, then he's going to be able to get downhill, get into the paint, use his athleticism, and beat his defender off the dribble, and that's what a star version of Shaedon Sharpe looks like in the future. But it's obviously a work in progress. Definitely a work in progress. But I think for him, getting a little stronger with his base, mixing in some more hesitations, like getting a little shiftier, being able to shift his defender to create a lane for himself will make things easier on him. I feel like a lot of times right now, he either tries to straight line drive or he takes one dribble and then crosses, whether it's one dribble between the legs, back the other way, or one dribble, then the behind the back, which is a good move, but you got to be able to do more than that to break down a defender. So that's just constructive stuff. You know, I mean, this season is all about player development, so hopefully that is something that Sharpe can continue to develop. He's definitely a better off-dribble scorer than he was when he came into the league, that's for sure. But I also think tightening up his handle a little bit is a big thing. And I see a comment in chat that says that as well. That is also something that he's improved on. He definitely handles the ball better than he did when he was a rookie, but he needs to tighten it up in order to fully realize his potential as an off-the-dribble scorer that can break down a defender and score off the dribble. So, but in the meantime, he can be a 20-point-per-game scorer without doing that well. Pushing the ball in transition, coming off these curls, hitting catch-and-shoot threes, hitting an occasional off-the-dribble three, catching a backdoor lob, cutting to the rim, getting a putback. He can find ways to fill it up without being an off-the-dribble guy. And that's what's so intriguing about Sharpe. Like, he might be one of those guys where he's not a great off-the-dribble, isolation scorer, but he can still become an all-star. Just with all the other ways he can fill it up. And this isn't a great comparison because this guy's a 7-footer that definitely is not, super athletic by NBA standards. But Lauri Markkanen became an all-star, made an all-star appearance because of the way he could just score off the ball, catch and shoot, catch the ball off curls and just attack downhill. And none of it was fancy. None of it was him breaking down defenders in isolation or anything like that. But he made an all-star appearance. and has become one of the better players in the league, right? I think that sort of thing can be similar for Sharp, just in a different way, because he's a wing, 6'6", but a super athlete. The dream, of course, though, is you can have that and pair it with somebody that can break down defenders off the dribble, and then maybe you have a 28 to 30 point per game score. Like, that is the upside, and that is the dream with Shane Sharp. He's just definitely a ways away from the isolation scoring off the dribble part of it. So it's gonna take some time, gonna take some development. He was 7 for 18 tonight, 3 for 9 inside the arc, not that great. I would like to see them try and get him more lobs, whether it's out of design sets or he backdoor cuts more, that sort of thing. I think playing with Scoot a little bit may help him there, because Scoot is a really good lob thrower. But 4 for 9 from 3. He struggled from 3 last year and was struggling to start this year, but he's starting to shoot the ball better, which is a really good sign. Really good sign. The last 4 games, he was 3 for 8, 4 for 8, 1 for 3, and 4 for 9 from 3. He started this season 1 for, let's do some math here, 1 for 13 from 3. Since then, he is 18 for, I'm doing mental math here, 43, 18 for 43. So since the first 3 games, when he came back and was rusty and shot the ball terribly, his last 6 games, he is shooting 41.9% from 3. So that is promising. That is promising. Because last year, he shot 33% from 3. His rookie year, of course, he shot a little bit better at 36%. So we're still kind of figuring out where Shaden Sharp is as a shooter. If you discount those first 3 games, if you want to say he's rusty, he's shooting the lights out from behind the arc. I think he needs to utilize that to open up his dribble drive game. Hesitations, playing behind the arc more. Sometimes he shoots some long 2s. He needs to just shoot a step back at that point. Step back behind the 3-point line. But things are good with him. Things are good with him. He had a really nice defensive play where he got a steal on Reed Shepard. He's moving his feet better laterally. So that is also a bonus. That is also a bonus. James Yang says, time to talk to Tamani. Yeah, not the best offensive game from Tamani. I'll talk about him in a little bit. I gotta load something up here. Give me a second. We'll talk about Tamani. We'll talk about the bench a little bit more. Let's just talk about, I guess, Chris Murray, Delano Banton, then we'll talk about Tamani. Chris Murray, man. 1 for 4 from 3. He's been shooting the 3 ball well enough this year. But had a stretch where he shoots a corner 3 off the side of the backboard, PG style, and then airballs a 3. Granted, it was late in the shot clock. But yeah, it was just kind of reminding me of Chris Murray last year. But he's doing some little things that's nice. If he can shoot 3s, then he's a guy that you can put out there. He's not going to make many mistakes, and he can knock down a shot. You know, it's just too early in the season, man. We're at that weird part of the season where you have some trends. Like, you have enough of a sample size to say, man, okay, this guy's shooting really well. I think he improved his 3-point shot. And that's kind of how I feel about Chris Murray right now. But also, it's still a tad early to say that with full confidence. And we're just at that weird point of the year. So hopefully Chris can continue to shoot the ball 35, 36%. Delano Banton, man. The conversation about Delano Banton, I think, has gotten a little weird. Because you have some Blazer fans that think he's quote-unquote untouchable. Which some Blazer fans don't understand what untouchable means. Some people say he sucks. Like, listen, he is extremely inconsistent. I think he's always going to be extremely inconsistent. He's had some nice passes. 5 assists, 1 turnover today. Like, when he's passing the ball, I can handle some of his inefficient nights. There's just times you can tell he puts his head down, tries too hard to score, that sort of stuff. Today was kind of one of those games. He was 2 for 9. Last game he was, 0 for 6. So last 2 nights, he's 2 for 15. He's just super streaky. And that's fine in a guy that you have as a scorer off the bench that you don't have to rely upon, but can be a spark plug to help you win a game. And then if he doesn't have it, you cut his minutes, and his minutes got cut in this game. I think he played 12 minutes. Let me pull back up the box score. No, he played 22 minutes. Maybe I was looking at the first half. But 22 minutes, right? Still played a lot. It's tough to rely upon him every game. He did have a stretch where he made 2 threes. I don't know how close together they were. But he's just one of those guys where he gets hot and he can win you a game. But when he's not shooting the ball well, he can be extremely inefficient. And he just has times where he tries to do a little bit too much. He had a couple really bad turnovers last game. And that's what Delano Banton is, and that's completely fine. That's a guy that will hang around in the league for sure, especially because he's doing better defensively this year, especially because he's doing a little bit of a better job playmaking for others and just trying to make the right decision. So with those things slightly improved, with his ability to get hot, that's what will keep him in the NBA. He's definitely an NBA player. He's definitely on a really good team, a 9th, 10th man on a team like this Blazer team, maybe a little bit better. That's what I see Delano Banton as. Chat, let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree with that take. But I said it a while ago. He's a guy that can win you a game or lose you a game. He's a guy that one game made it look like the best player on the floor and the next game looked like the worst. That's what Delano Banton is. Raymond says, no, we don't. What do you think Delano is then, man? What do you think Delano is? Unless that was in regards to something else. Sorry, my chat lag's behind. It's catching up now. We'll take your guys' calls in about 15 minutes. Eric Olson says that's literally absurd. What's absurd? One Piece says Delano's trade value needs to be capitalized. I don't see him with the future core because you can't trust his streakiness in the playoffs. Yeah, he's one of those guys that I feel like might struggle in the playoffs with more physicality. He's not the strongest guy. Oh, was the that's untouchable part absurd? Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that dude's untouchable. It's wild to me. You traded a second-round pick for him last year. He's worth a little bit more than that now, so maybe he can swing a deal. But there's a ton of guys that can get streaky and get hot and score the ball. DB Hooper is our Jamal Crawford. Bro, Jamal Crawford was a legend. Comparing Delano Banton to Jamal Crawford is insulting to Jamal Crawford. If you mean in terms of 6-man where he can just get hot, yeah, definitely. He's definitely a guy that can come in and swing a game and provide a spark, for sure. I don't view him as a Jamal Crawford type, though, because he can make plays for others a little bit better. He's just not... Jamal Crawford was one of a kind. Anyway, we're going to talk about Toumani Camara. He struggled offensively today. Should we worry about him? Chat, you can answer that question. While I give a huge shout out to the sponsor of the postgame show, BetUS. NFL football is tomorrow, so if you're a football fan, you can get in on the action with spread lines, live betting, prop bets by using BetUS and using promo code YouTube150, as it gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits, up to $2,000. And you can get in on the NBA. College basketball is going right now. We'll have our big board stream here in a few days. I started putting together my big board. You can bet on college basketball if you want to with BetUS. They got all sorts of basketball, overseas basketball too as well. And also, of course, NFL with games tomorrow. Unfortunately, my Niners are screwed. My Niners are absolutely screwed. It's funny. The Blazers might be as good as my Niners now. My hierarchy is all out of whack. All out of whack. The Mariners are a freaking joke. Even if they're 500, they're my worst team right now. Screw them. Screw them. Portland needs an MLB team. Right? Gonzaga looks phenomenal. That might be my year for Gonzaga. But then you got Niners, right? Niners, Washington Huskies, both lost championships this year and now have fallen off. And the Blazers. I don't know. The Blazers 7-10. Is this team better, or can they just win close games and then get destroyed? And I don't know, man. The Blazers won some close games that I feel like last year they might have lost. Having Klingon helps. Having Avdia helps. James Yang says Tamani doesn't stand around doing nothing, and that's what Lamar Hurd said on Kamara after his weak side screen frees up a shooter. Yeah, he had a nice little pin down for Jeremy Grant while they ran pick and roll on the other side of the floor. That's what we're talking about when, like, you don't have to stand around if you're not in a set. You can always go screen for someone. There's 5 players on the floor. Only one of them has the ball. You can always go screen for somebody else. You can always try and cut to an open spot. And that's why it's frustrating to watch this team stand around. And that Tamani pin down for Grant, I don't think was a set action. Might have been. But it opened up a shooter. It opened up a Jeremy Grant 3. Instead of both those guys just standing around and Anthony Simons having to figure out how to generate some offense. Oh, look, Anthony Simons comes off a screen. Jeremy Grant is wide open for 3. Guess what? Anthony Simons makes the pass. And they get a 3. Just because Kamara pinned down for him. Super simple, but effective. Let's talk about Tamani. And then we'll take your calls. I'm actually going to hop in the call-in tab in our Discord. Okay, I'm going to start the stage now. And now if you want to call into the show, you can go into the Discord, click the call-in tab, and you can call into the show. If you don't know how to join our Discord, just go to the description box below. So the top of the description box. All right, Tamani Kamara, 2 for 10 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. 5 points, 5 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block. The thing with Tamani is even when he's this bad offensively, he still has such a big defensive impact that, you know, it's, I don't want to say it's fine, but you can live with it. He is really rough inside the arc right now. Going into this game, he was shooting 42% from the field, 40% from 3, which says to you that he's shooting probably 43, 44% from 2. The thing is he shoots 8 field goal attempts per game, half of them are 3s. So he's shooting, 44, maybe 45% inside the arc, somewhere in that range, just based off my mental math. For a guy his size, it's not good. We talked about it last night. And in tonight's game, he could not really buy a 3. The only 3 he hit was at the end of the shot clock, which he had to shoot. And I had a feeling he was going to hit that one because sometimes as a shooter, if you're struggling, the types of shots you need are like the types of shots where there's 1 or 2 left on the shot clock and you have to shoot it. Because you don't put as much pressure upon yourself because you have to shoot it, so there's no other alternative. Because when you start to struggle with your shot, as a basketball player, sometimes you take shots with like a thought in the back of your head, like maybe I shouldn't take this, maybe I should make a different play. And you catch the ball and maybe you hesitate, like because you're not shooting too well, so you want to drive, so you're waiting to see if that defender runs all the way out on you, so you hesitate, but then he doesn't run all the way out, and it's like, okay, I guess I'll shoot it, and you're not sure, and you're not confident. And I feel like Tamani Kamara is struggling with a little bit of that right now because he shot the ball so comfortably earlier in the season and in preseason, and he got off to a scorching start, but that's never going to Like, he was never going to be a 45% three-point shooter this year. He's not that good of a shooter, unfortunately. But the good shooters, what do? They get in a slump, they still shoot. They still shoot with confidence, and they shoot their way out of a slump. And Toumani Camara right now needs to have the mindset that he is a good shooter. And just because he was 3 for 9 last night, with one of them being a lucky banked in 3, and then he's 1 for 5 tonight, that's nothing. That's just a rough shooting night. You know, he's 2 for 7 the game before, 1 for 3 the 2 games before that. So, like, not the greatest shooting stretch for him from 3. He needs to have the mindset that, like, okay, he's rough shooting stretch. But he's a good shooter. And shooters shoot. And I just hope he's not starting to struggle with his confidence behind the arc, because it just felt like maybe he was hesitating a little bit lately. The thing is, even when he was shooting well, he was kind of hesitating, though, so I don't know. But sometimes the difference between mediocre shooters and good shooters is confidence and mentality. Mentality is a huge part of shooting in the game of basketball. It obviously isn't everything. Mechanics matter a ton. Drilling your mechanics, making your shot repeatable is very important. But mentality and confidence goes a long way. That's why Delano Banton can get super streaky hot and then go ice cold. That's why sometimes players are in the zone and they're cooking and they're playing really well. And that's why sometimes guys go into slumps. It's because of the mental side of the game. It's not like their skills or their talent is any different than it was when they were playing well. A lot of times, I don't know, you're going to miss shots. And if you let that get to your head a little bit, you're going to miss more shots. The best advice that I could give to anybody out there who wants to play basketball or plays basketball is miss confidently. If you're going to shoot a 3 and miss it confidently. You're going to make the next one. That's the type of mindset that Toumani Camara has to have right now. He's a good enough shooter to have that mindset. His inside the arc game is a whole nother story. There's just problems there. I would like to see him develop a floater. He doesn't shoot enough floaters. He doesn't shoot any mid-range jumpers. I don't really want him to necessarily. I like him as a get to the rim or shoot a 3 type of guy. But I don't know, man. Like, he needs to learn how to make shots from like 6 to 8 feet, and that most of the time is going to be a floater. But he's just not a good finisher at the rim. We've seen him miss layups that he should make and that guys like Jeremy Grant would make. He needs to work on his touch. He needs to work on his finishing. Because last night he was 1 for 4 inside the arc. Tonight he's 1 for 5. Against OKC, he was fine. But the game before that against Atlanta, that was a Blazers win. He was 0 for 5 inside the arc. Right now, especially, he's just having a really rough time finishing. But defensively, he's phenomenal. So hopefully he figures it out, man. Because he's definitely a part of the core. The Blazers need him to figure things out. The shot's fine. The shot's good. Just if he keeps shooting it and shooting it confidently. If Grant and DA are traded, what position should they be traded for? They should just be traded for expiring contracts that the Blazers either buy out or let walk at the end of the year and get back some picks. And if they can get a good young player, you'll just take any good young player at this point. Riley Davidson says, I'd cash in on Toumani if you could. That is a freaking ridiculous thing to say, man. He also says, okay, Kamara is under Roberson. That is just ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. Have some shame, man. That's just a horrible take. You seem to want to come in here and rile people up by saying stuff that's completely off the wall. Cash in on Toumani. What? Ridiculous. Toumani's still shooting like roughly 40% from 3 as a second-year player? What do you mean he's Andre Roberson? One Piece says, as a Tamani stan, I got this. Tamani isn't like Tease. Tamani doesn't stat hunt and gamble to stuff the box score. He legit tries his absolute hardest to get through every screen and stay in front. Yeah, he also is the league leader in charges. He makes really good defensive plays. He battles. He presses. Like, he's legit. He's one of the best defensive players in the league as a second-year guy. In the offense, there's flashes. And that's all you could ask for a dude that was the 52nd pick a year and a half ago. I was watching No Ceilings podcast today about like their first consensus big board, and they were talking about guys in like the 40 to 50s range. They were talking about like, oh, maybe he could be the Tamani Kamara of this year's draft. Tamani's phenomenal for where he was picked. His defense is great. His passing is pretty solid for his archetype. And his shooting has been good this year. He's struggling a little bit lately. He just has to keep shooting confidently. That's it. If he keeps his confidence and keeps shooting confidently, then I think he'll at least be a 36-37% three-point shooter this year. Which is good for what he is. Let's see if I have anybody else I didn't talk about. Then we'll go to the phones. It's not a phone, it's Discord, but, you know, you guys get it. Reith played 5 minutes, didn't do anything, had a board, had a block. That's it. He was a +5. Repair played 6 minutes, didn't really do anything, had a board. That's it. Missed a couple shots. And that's pretty much the entire lineup. Let's go to the phones. We got Dallas and we got Nolan. We'll go to Dallas first. And then we will go to Nolan. Hey, what's going on, man? I'm just making sure my audio is all set up and good to go here. What's up, Dallas? How you doing, man?
Yeah, how's it going, man?
It's going good, going good. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, no, good to talk to you, man. I never get to catch the post games. I'm the East Coast guy on Twitter.
Where are you at on the East Coast?
I'm in DC.
Nice.
I've been watching since like True Blazer fan days, so this is pretty cool to me.
A lot of people don't even know those days, man.
Oh no, they don't. Yeah.
Good days. Good days with the old mic that made my voice sound a lot higher pitched, I think. So
you sound so different now.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is talking different and how much of it is the microphone, but every now and then I'll go back and watch some True Blazer fan collab videos that I made, and it's wild. Completely different guy.
Yeah, for sure. I have two questions, right, if that's okay.
Oh, perfect. Let's hear them.
So my first one's like, Joe has shown that he values like young players that are currently in the league as high as future first, kinda. Mm-hmm. Do you have any like young players you think the Blazers could get, and do you also think that that's a good philosophy to have when team building?
That's a really good question. Any players that the Blazers could get, I mean, Denny was a guy that I didn't think was available, and then they trade for him. So, you know, if I was asked this question, I would have thought of somebody like Denny, but then went and said, oh, they'll probably keep him. But of course they traded him. So it's always a tough one to answer because there's so many young players out there that a team might look to move off of for whatever reason. And the most obvious candidates are usually the guys that aren't traded, because the guys that Blazer fans may have their eye on are maybe too good of young prospects for a team to give up for like a Jeremy Grant. A good example of that is a Jarris Walker, right?
Yeah.
Last year, a good example of that would have been a Jonathan Kuminga. And he's had his contract dispute and that sort of thing. But the reason why fans want Jonathan Kuminga was he was the 7th overall pick, and he's very physically gifted and started having some solid performances. So it's hard to name any names, you know, especially this early. Like if I was able to work the trade machine for 10 straight post-game shows, I'd probably be able to come up with some more names. But it's a good philosophy to have. I think it's good if the player can fit into the identity you're trying to build. it's like if you trade for Jarris Walker right now, I don't know, it's kind of like the same thing as if he was in college for a couple more years and you drafted him. Now, do you value the experience that he's got developing in Indiana? I don't know, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad philosophy. It just depends on if you're trading for the right guy or not. I don't think it's a good philosophy when it's trading for a player that was a high draft pick that has gotten ample opportunity for like 4 or 5 years and they have done absolutely nothing with it. Perfect example, Mario Hezonja or like a Cam Reddish type of guy. DeAndre Ayton to a lesser extent, but we're going to fix DeAndre Ayton. It's like, no, he's proven for the last 4 or 5 years exactly what he is, right? So I don't like those types of players, but if it's a guy who hasn't gotten a chance yet, like a Jarris Walker, then sometimes those guys can really pan out.
No, yeah, I agree. Also, just a little extension on that. If it meant having to give up a first, would you trade for Jarris Walker?
Not like... Not our first this year because, listen...
No, not this year. Not this year. Future first.
Yeah, like if we were a playoff team, I would trade a lottery protected first, but Indiana's not going to do that. A future first, I would trade. So the Blazers in 2029 get the best and the worst out of Portland's, Boston's, and Milwaukee's pick. I would probably trade the worst one out of those three for Jarris. I just think that's the tough thing with trading for a young player is most of the time a team is giving up a young player because they're trying to get better now at the expense of the future. So they're always looking for a good player right now. So, there has been trades where a young player just can't get time, so a team cashes them in for a future first. But I think a team like Indiana, it'd be more so if they do trade them, they're trying to get somebody that can help them win right now.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Second question is more like prospect watching related.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been able to like get into it just because it's a lot to like manage. Like doing a big board. I mean, I remember I was trying to do it last year. I got out the top 15 and I was like, man, I don't have my own opinion at this point. I'm just looking at consensus.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like I'm a college student, but like my semesters end in December.
Yeah.
What would you say to me like to help me kind of start inching into that ballpark? Like how do I get into making, whole first round into a second round?
Dude, that's another great question, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect time to talk about this too because we're doing our first big board reveal on the 27th, so in 4 days, right? And I was actually putting together mine today. So what I do, and maybe this isn't ideal for like somebody else, but I have the ESPN app on my phone. And what I did today was any games that I want to pay attention to and potentially watch live with prospects in them, I went and set a reminder on my ESPN app to let me know when the game starts. And I pay for like YouTube TV. Unfortunately, if you don't have like TV, it's really hard to watch these games. But like I have the sports package on YouTube TV, so I can get the the FS1 and that sort of stuff. So like that way I can go watch a game that's on FS1 or a game that's on CBS Sports Network or whatever, and I can watch games that way. Now, I would say if you don't have the ability to like do that or the free time to do that, I think there's podcasts out there that you could like listen to while working on homework or commuting or even at work if anybody works. Like, they're a good podcast that go in depth upon players, and you can probably find a couple different podcasts out there that have different opinions on players, and then
hear my podcast.
Yeah, well, there's podcasts like fully dedicated to it, but
yeah.
like No Ceilings is a really good podcast. Locked On NBA Big Board is a good podcast. So I'd say if you want to like really dive in deep and get at least a first round big board, and you're limited maybe with time or with the ways that you can watch live games, I would check out podcasts like that. And then also you can always go and look at like highlights of a player, which is definitely not the best way.
Highlights was tough though, because like
because it,
sometimes you
it
think
only
guys are
shows the good
bad.
moments. Yeah, it only shows the
Yeah.
good moments. DeAndre Ayton looks phenomenal on a highlight tape, right? But
Yeah.
what you can tell from highlight tapes is like the way the player gets to their shots and the way the player can like create space. You know, if they're shifty or not. Like you can see a really nice pass that is a really nice, like, oh wow, this dude, I can't believe you saw that pass. That was a really impressive pass. You can learn some things from highlights. It's just never good enough to only look at highlights because some players will be, Antonio Blakeney looks really good in highlights. I don't know if you remember him. He was on our summer league team a few years ago, right? So, Taze Moore highlights look good. So,
Yeah.
can never learn too much from highlights, but if you like couple that with listening to podcasts with people that have the time to dive in deep and listening to what they think is good or bad about a player, that's a start. But of course, the best way is always just watching games. And it's a 4-year season through March Madness, right? 4 months from now, there's going to be March Madness, so it may seem a lot to watch 30 players, but you got 4 months, and just being able to catch games with like prospects on different teams is always good. So Kansas doesn't have any prospects, but I know they play Duke this week, so that's you can see Con Knipple, who's a projected lottery
I was
pick right
planning on
now.
watching that one.
Yeah, Cooper Flag, and that's like a good game to see them in. So at the end of the day, like there's no shortcut that beats watching players. I know what Eric does is he DVRs some games and will watch them back. To me, that's just not as much fun. To watch a game that's not live, it's more fun to watch a live game. So, if you want to go that route, you can always DVR and like skip through the commercials and actually get through a game. But that's not for everybody. That's not for me. That's an Eric type of thing. So, it's just it's tough to like perfectly answer your question because it's just different for different people what I would recommend. But what path do you think you're gonna take out of all that?
I mean, so like last year, what I was starting to do was I would listen to a bunch of different like opinions. Like
Yeah.
I definitely listened to you guys the most, but I did also listen to some other outside opinions that I didn't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes that's always a good thing to do, just because you should get across all boards, you should get every opinion that you can.
Yeah.
But like I would also watch like I'd watch some YouTube channels that are dedicated to breaking down prospects.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of any
Hoop
top of my head,
Intellect
but
Hoop Intellect has
Hoop
good
Intellect, yeah,
breakdowns,
yeah, Hoop Intellect I watched a lot.
and those are good because he breaks down the good and the bad, so you can come up with your own judgment that's not based on his, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I just speaking of Eric, I wanted my own Ulrich Chomsky this year. I want to have someone that I'm so high on that no one believes in. I haven't had that ever, and I want to be like very opinionated this year.
That's So I really like Jalen Tyson because I watched a
Yeah.
Hoop Intellect video and it was like highlights of him, but I was really impressed with how shifty and the way he could handle the ball and like get to his spots. And this was when he was a projected like late second round pick, and I was like, that dude, for being like a 6'6" wing that can play some three, that dude moves well, is shifty, like can create some stuff off the dribble, right? So he kind of became my guy, and then he rises up and is the 20th overall pick and just can't get a chance to play in Cleveland because they're phenomenal. But he had a game recently where he almost had a triple-double his first career start. So it's always fun to like see something in a guy and then it pans out, like Austin Reeves was somebody I thought was going to had a chance of being a really good NBA player and went undrafted. And I was like, nah, that dude should have been drafted into the first round at the latest. And now look at him, it's always cool because those guys remain your guys throughout their career, like Naz Reid is one of my guys. And that's the fun part about scouting. And that's what I would say to anybody that wants to get into it. That's where it gets fun, is when you see something ahead of time and it pans out, or you have a guy that you just become a fan of the way they play the game, they end up in the league and you can follow them along with their NBA career. That's what motivates me to do it. So
yeah, late risers are always interesting to me too. Like guys that just jump up draft boards at the end of it. Those guys are always so fun to watch. I'd love to have one of those where it's just early on. And then, like you said, Jalen Tyson was one of yours. Like
Yeah.
you were high on him before he went in the first round, and that's just something I want to get into. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try a couple of those things. I mean, I might have to DVR some games, but I always try to catch it live if I can.
Yeah, man, and if you have the time, I would recommend getting a list of especially if you want to try and identify sleepers, get a list of like 60 guys, 70 guys you want to pay attention to. Because a lot of the guys second round might be like the fourth best prospect on Duke, right? Like a Tyrese Proctor,
Yeah.
right? So it's have a list of guys, because while you're watching Duke and watching a Cooper Flag, you should also be paying attention to a Tyrese Proctor, because he's a guy that if he enters the draft is probably going to be a mid to late second round pick. Maybe you like his game, right? So it's always good to have kind of a master list of guys to pay attention to. And I know it's tough this time of year, but that's where you can go into like a 2-round mock draft and listen to a podcast, and they might say a name you've never heard of, but he plays for, there's a guy that's getting hype right now that plays for Virginia. His last name is Kofi. I hadn't heard of him before today listening to a podcast, but like, okay, if I ever watch Duke versus Virginia because they're in the same conference, I'll pay attention to this guy, so it's always good to just have some names on the radar that are more under the radar, so to say.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Great questions. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Alrighty, we will go to Nolan. Just sent the invitation to speak. Eric Olson says spreadsheets are your friend. Also, Fanspo now allows you to make a big board for this year's upcoming draft. So you can go to Fanspo, go to their big board creator, and you can make a big board. All right. Nolan, I invited him to speak, and he bowed out. He bowed out, unfortunately. So right now the queue is open. So if you want to call into the show, you can call into the show. Just join the stage. Wait, Nolan is back. And then we got Cheem, my guy Cheem, who was in our mock offseason. I talked to Cheem a lot. Cheem's good to see Cheem here. But Nolan, we got up first. Hopefully this works this time. Fingers crossed. Nolan, you there? One Piece says I just aggregate from consensus boards. You want to come up with your own opinions if you're scouting prospects. That's the thing. Try not to just make it, other people's opinions. That's why it's always good to watch film, watch tape. Nolan, if you're speaking, I cannot hear you on Discord. If you go to your settings, you can go to where it says voice and video and check your mic. Make sure it's the right mic. Adam Smith says Ant didn't have great shooting splits, but good and timely fourth. He still had some smooth moves at times through the defense. Yeah, I mean, he's still a good player. He's in a slump. He's struggling, and it's good to see him break out of it. And the way he responded to that scuffle was really cool. The way he cooked them after that was so much fun. So much fun to watch. One Piece says I meant like to scout my own top 30 people and make my own board just to see what the consensus top 30 are. Yeah. Like big boards and mock drafts are good to establish like a list of guys to pay attention to. 100%. Nolan, he says, I'm having trouble joining. How do I turn on my speaker? You need to go to your Discord settings. If you're on phone, it's going to be something else. But I'm going to have Cheem hop in here, and during that time, Google how to change your mic. Whether you're on mobile or your desktop app, Google how to do it. Set up your mic, and then we'll bring you back in, and hopefully it'll work. That's the only thing that I can recommend. So while you do that, we're gonna bring on Cheem, my guy. What's up? So while you do that, we're gonna bring on. Oh, we got the radio echo.
Yo, can you hear me?
Are you gonna listen
What's
to
up,
me
man?
through
What's
the
up?
stream or the Discord?
It was actually that. Oh yeah, my fault, my fault. Damn, I don't even know how I can like. Yeah, well, oh, how do I?
You gotta listen to me through the Discord, man.
Oh,
There's
my
a
fault, my
four
fault.
second delay. You're
Yeah,
pulling a Gabe. Gabe did this once on a trade deadline stream where he was listening to us through the stream instead of the call we were in. It was brutal. I would not
my
like to
fault.
repeat that. You're all good. That's funny.
Yeah, I was just making some clips, but I did appreciate that last guy that came here and asked you about the prospect thing
Hmm.
because last year, since I had so much free time, I did it all at once.
Yeah, you dove in
So
late. That was like what, May? And here's the thing. I told him you got 4 months to watch tape, but March it doesn't end. The draft's in June, so you actually got 7 months.
yeah. Um, and like even now, I'm thinking like because I'm trying to pay attention to the stuff that's going on with the team, stuff that's going on with every other team, and then still looking at prospects. And I don't even like. I think I looked at other people's stuff and had like I, I think 10, 12 players.
Hmm.
Um, already. Well, I guess I have my favorite just off of like bias, but. And I guess I was the only person I really saw play basketball because I haven't really seen Cooper Flag play. I've seen his highlights, but I haven't seen him play
Yeah.
like just a live game yet. But I did like need that tip about just like finding different well, I guess looking at the other people's guys and just like tuning into live college basketball games. It's just that it's interesting because there's like so many players compared to NBA where you can just focus on like
Yeah.
kind of like four dudes
Yeah, it's really
with
good
that.
just to see the good and the bad and the little things, right? And
Yeah.
and that's why it's like, highlights can maybe get you started on a player, but it's always good just to see the good, the bad, the
Yeah,
in between, the little
see
stuff.
the whole game.
Yeah.
Just a good old
Even
a
even the
whole
even like body language and the way the guys carry themselves, is something that I try and pay attention to a little bit as well. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah. I guess my question would be uh I didn't think I'd get this far honestly. But
what do you mean you didn't? What you thought I was gonna kick you? Um,
no, I didn't think that, but I was just like
I'll just say this: if you guys call in, you don't even have to come up with a question. You can state an
mhm.
opinion. You can say whatever you want.
Okay.
That's
So I can
family
just
family
chat.
friendly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to come in with a hot take, that's great. It's like radio,
Yeah.
right? And I haven't done
Yeah.
much of this, but I used to listen to the radio all the time, and I would never call in, but I always listened into callers, and they just come in and start. I don't know. You never knew what you were gonna get, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess what I would say is, at least the shade and sharp stuff that you were talking about earlier, even in the group chat, I did like agree with the. He just needed, for me, like I can see the star potential. I can see like he has a long way to go, yeah, but like you can see the flashes
Hmm.
and like see what he can bring to our squad. It's just that there's so much that can happen on ball with the skill set he has, but he's still able to do so much more off ball and still get what is it 20 you got 24 points today
Yeah.
and most of it was off ball and just like spacing the floor.
Hmm.
um and I know even before I was talking about how the Blazers just needed to be able to spread the court out a little bit better because well I just need 3-point shooters to be able to spread out the court a little bit better because they just collapsed the paint. You saw the first half how they just they just kept somebody in the paint. Every time somebody drove, it was just two people, and they all collapsed in the paint. They
Yeah.
just let Chris Murray, Tumani, um, I guess those are the only people I remember being in the corner. They're just like, yeah, we're just gonna let them shoot
Hmm.
because even if they make one, they're not gonna make the next four or five.
Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
think we need that because that will help us with those rim pressure opportunities.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens too when you're stagnant or don't run good enough motion is
Mhm.
it allows defenses to play off of guys that they don't respect behind the arc. So,
Yeah,
if you're a set defense and you're guarding Tamani Kamara, the game plan is let Tamani Kamara shoot, like, okay, you're going to pack the paint. You're going to
yeah,
play off of him. Whereas if he's setting screens and moving around, you got to worry about, okay, the guy he's setting the screen for, do you have to help on him? Okay, is he going to slip the screen, go back door? Like, that's a threat. You got to guard that. And it makes you respect them more. It gets you preoccupied. And that's the problem with the Blazers, especially last year, with how stagnant they were while being the worst three-point shooting team, is it just allowed defenses to pack the paint, load up at the rim, and then you go and see the Blazers and they have the worst finishing numbers in the league, or some of the worst finishing numbers in the league as a whole, and it's a product of that. Yeah.
And I think there was, I'm trying to remember what play. I don't even know if it was a play or the player just freestyled it, because we know Chauncey Ball is then 3 dribble handoffs into whatever happens next.
Favorite play.
I think I want to say it was Anthony on the drive, and then I think Klingon screens for Shaden and rolled, or Shaden, because there was the way I saw it in my head was Shaden could have went back door after Klingon screen for Anthony, and he drove at the rim, and he could have either lobbed it, dumped it off to Klingon. But I felt like that type of pick and roll, and then somebody cut on the back door is you get 2 people, but you get 2 people at least going at the rim, or you get 1 person going at the rim and then somebody popping to the 3, and just using Anthony in that way more in a sense of just using him as a driver a little bit more. I know you said that too. He just doesn't get the whistle as much as other guys do, but using him as a driver really opens things up, because he actually can beat his man off the ball, and the passing just gotta be there, which wasn't really off today, but it wasn't like he was trying to really make too many plays for others, just kind of just letting others run the offense, and him playing a more of an off-ball role. But I think Shaden could use some picking up of the stuff that he does.
Absolutely.
He just got to get his handle up.
So they had a play I think it was last game, where they had Ant curl off a Klingon screen, and both guys went with him, and Klingon was able to just slip that, get a dunk, right? And it's everybody thinks the center is the screener most of the time.
Yeah.
But Golden State, with their dynasty, they had a lot of, action with Draymond initiating it, maybe from the high post, and Steph and Clay are setting screens for each other and using the threat of one to open up the other. And it's you got Ant, you got Sharp, both guys super athletic. You can throw a lob to them. Both guys can shoot threes off the move, off the catch, off the dribble. Both guys can create. Both guys are 3-level scorers. Let them, I wouldn't mind seeing Sharp screening for Simons and then cutting back door off of that and just seeing what's there. Throw that in as a wrinkle. We never see anything like that.
Especially now that you say that, you're right.
When Klingon can pass too, put Klingon in a position in that little Draymond role to make a read, maybe throw the lob to Sharp, because he can pass the ball. It's just you got to put him in positions to make decisions, and he might not be great at it at first because he's a rookie, but it's that's where it's
that's what you need. You need him to have the reps to make mistakes and be able to just see what he can and can't do, but you just got to keep putting him in that area to just let him try it out.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that's why I even liked what is it? I guess Denny's now out of the starting lineup, but I even like when Denny's on the court, because he pushes the pace a lot more, and then when he's always trying to drive and kick, but he also can go in the pick and roll as well, and just create action over there with that. And I just wish just some creativity, man. I feel like the creativity only comes when I guess the young guys are on the court, and it's we know what Chauncey told us we have to do is not going to work. So let's do something else. And I don't even know if that's him telling them to freestyle it, but it just feels like the creativity is always coming on the fly, and then they don't really repeat what works. They kind of they just go back to square one, and it's we've done this a whole year and we just had one of the worst offenses. Let's not do that again. But it's there's no improvement there. It's kind of just we're seeing ourselves cook, and I say cook loosely on offense when we're just freestyling. It's this could be so much more efficient, but this is where we are, and it's dang, if this is where we are right now, the world is our oyster with what we can do on offense.
Yeah, because right now it's basically just kind of the players are supposed to go figure things out. The players
Yeah,
are supposed to go figure out how to make a play. They do have some sets, but a lot of them, the end result is somebody has the ball in their hands on the perimeter and have to make something happen.
yeah,
And like that's the thing is there always has to be an ending point to the set where like option 1, option 2, option 3 wasn't there. What does it lead into? Like most of the time it will be a late shot clock pick and roll. In the NBA you only have a 24-second shot clock. It's a shorter shot clock, so you kind of need some stuff that develops quick enough. But it's like you got to have deviations of that and stuff and get more creative, and they don't. It's the Blazers had a stretch today where they were trying to enter the ball to the wing, but the wing was like 30 feet away from the baseline, 30 feet away from the hoop. And they had back-to-back turnovers just trying to enter the ball to the wing like far above the three-point line. And it's like, man, okay, if they're denying that pass, you got to have something you can turn to, right? Like
you got to have a backup plan. You got to have plan C and D, but they only have plan B.
Yeah, especially when the first time it happened, there was a timeout right after that, and then they made the same exact mistake. And it's like, as a point guard, if you're trying to enter the ball to the wing, you can always dribble the ball to the wing and become that guy and like wave the guy at the wing through to like wherever he's supposed to go and start the set with your dribble. Yeah. And I never see them do that. It's like, okay, we got to force this handoff. We got to force the ball and, force this entry pass. And it's baffling to me. So, I would like to see them get more creative. Use Simon's athleticism a little bit more. Use Sharp's athleticism a little bit more. I think that would be great. Also, Eric wants to hop in here. He's not in Skype. So, but he is calling in because he wasn't on a post-game show, so I'll add him to this call as well. And then after your call, we'll try and get Nolan in here. Hopefully he's fixed his mic. But Eric, I sent you an invite to talk. And Cheem, I'm looking forward to your big board this year, man, because I know you got started late last year, so I'm curious to see what a full season of your scouting looks like.
Well, I'll leave it off on this because I do actually gotta go back to the scouting. I know it's very early, but who? Actually, I feel like this might be leaking too much. Actually, I'll keep the question to myself.
Okay, you can message it to me. I'm curious what you were about to leak, but.
All right.
All right, man. Appreciate you calling in, bro.
Of course.
I'll say hi to you before you leave.
What's up, Eric? Are you what are you up to? Why'd you miss this? So, chat, I don't know why Eric was not in the stream today. He just said, I'm going to miss on Saturday. I was like, okay, cool. We got call-ins, so it'll be fine. But what are you up to tonight, Eric?
I am driving back from Corvallis.
Yeah.
My daughter invited me to come hang out today, go to the Beaver football game and stuff. So I went to the Oregon State-Washington State game, saw the Beavers win with a last-second field goal.
That's
pretty
fun.
Awesome.
Nice.
Unfortunately, it was same time as the Blazer game pretty much, so had to miss it. But,
did you watch any of the game at all?
I have not seen it. I'm going to watch it when I get home in like an hour and a half. But,
Did you see the Dylan Brooks scuffle?
I have not even seen the scuffle yet.
Have you heard about any of the game?
No, well, so I was following the game through the GC.
Yeah.
So I was just getting your guys' reaction to what was happening.
So just a bunch of F Dylan Brooks.
Right, yeah. And then something about Fred VanVleet laughing at him or something. I don't know, but
oh man, there was something else. So Brooks, Sharp crashes, upends Dylan Brooks on a rebound, but it was like a basketball play. Brooks gets up and gets in his face, and Sharp was just kind of like, "What the hell?" And then Simon starts like pressing Brooks and gets in his face. And after the game, it was just like, "Yeah, I was just trying to instigate." which is funny. But that was with like 2.5 minutes left. I think it was tied or like 2-point game, and then Ant has a drive for a lay-in, and then hits like a crazy sidestep three to put them up three. Like he responded after that, which was super sick given how he struggled this year.
I saw he was like, he had some good moments in the first half, but then I looked at his numbers. I was like, he's not doing too well, and then finished the game strong.
Yeah, he was missing his step back, so that's also why that sidestep was cool because he was missing that shot earlier in the game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to you watching the game, and then
Is Klingon okay? I saw he left the
I
game.
think he's fine because he was supposed to return, but I think he just didn't return because of matchups or whatever. And Denny said he wanted to guard Şengün and met that matchup. Like he got some stops on him down the stretch, got a big block on him. Denny had like the craziest back-to-back two-way sequences I've seen. Like dime for an assist, gets a block, goes the other way, wrap around at full speed behind the back, and gets a tough lane to go, and then like next possession dive it on the floor for a loose ball. He was good. Like Grant was good. Finally made some shots, so it was kind of the opposite of what things had been recently.
So back to they're going to be in the play-in again.
Yeah, back and forth. You know how it goes.
We're not the worst team in the league anymore after the last.
Yeah, yay for us. Tyler wants me to ask you, are you going to In and Out? You going to get In and Out?
I just had B-dubs, so no, I'm not.
What'd you get at B-dubs?
They have this like 2 for $19.99 deal right now, so you get golden swings and fries and a drink.
Yeah, it's like 20 boneless wings on their own are like $30, but you can get the 2 for $19.99, and you get basically 2 entrees, and one of the options is 10 boneless wings. So you can get 20 boneless wings for $20 instead of $30, but then also get like 2 things of fries and 2 drinks. Yeah, it's definitely the way.
So we had that, and then I had my favorite local restaurant there, Local Boys, Hawaiian food for lunch.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I'm not very hungry. I kept thinking about, I can still stop anyway and get something, but yeah, I'll just wait until another time.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tyler.
Bouquet says, bro, the food at B-dubs is so garbage. Their honey barbecue boneless wings with their ranch is really good, though, when it's done right.
Yeah.
So I like going to Buffalo on a Saturday, getting some boneless wings, getting a couple drinks, getting a little tipsy. Now, we got our shot night coming up. My eye, I think, is finally better, so I'm not trying to make that mistake again because that's been annoying, getting asked why my eye is all bloodshot or whatever. So, we're going to keep a light on the next shot night, but yeah, man, this was a good game, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts after you watch it. I'm going to try and toss Nolan back in here. Tried to call him earlier. Nolan, were you able to figure out the mic? Are you there? Hello? Negative. Nolan, I don't know what's up, man, but we are... Oh, you unmuted. Are you there? Hello? Nope, still not there. I don't know what's up with your mic, man. If you want some help, I can help you after this stream. I did message you on Discord, so if you're new to Discord, I can help you out with that sort of stuff. But yeah, we'll figure it out.
What's up, everyone in chat? Sorry I couldn't be there on the show.
Yeah, man, this would have been a fun game for you after Simon's.
Chat feeling tonight.
Chat's good. Chat's happy. Were you able to listen to any part of the stream?
I was in chat for a few minutes during dinner, just reading chat a little bit, but I couldn't hear anything. So, yeah, definitely listen to it back after I watch the game.
Gotcha. Nolan, we cannot hear you. Check your Discord messages. I'll try and help you figure out the problem, and then hopefully you can call in on the next call-in night because we'd love to talk to you, but unfortunately we can't hear you. So,
Who else besides Chin was in here?
we had Dallas, dude. Dallas asked 2 great questions. He was tweeting at me before the game saying he's on the East Coast, but was gonna stay up to call into the show. So he asked, like, for somebody that wants to get into scouting, like, what would I recommend? As well as, I don't even remember the other question, but it was good. So it was 2 phenomenal questions. I know he said he wants to call in the next one to talk to you as well. He said he was an OG from the true Blazer fan days. So, you know, that's real. I need to do a chat poll. Were you here for the true Blazer fan Tory collab days? Yes, no. Okay, this question. Did you, like, were you here for the True Blazer fan days? Because before I started Blazers Uprise for a year, I made content over on True Blazer fan. So did you watch any of that content? Yes or no? Answer truthfully. I'm just curious. So,
I did.
yeah, well, I knew you. I did. Yeah, believe it or not, I did not randomly start a podcast with some random dude off the street after the True Blazer fan days. So, we got 43% say 40% yes, 60% no. That's kind of what I expected. So, let's get Tristan in here. We'll get Tristan in here. We'll take a question and then we'll wrap up the stream. What were you gonna say, Eric?
I can't read chat while I'm driving, so if anyone's saying anything to me, just tell them I'll have to read it later.
Please don't read chat while you're driving. That is dangerous, and we don't recommend that. Tristan, what's going on, man? Tristan, you there?
Hello?
What's up, man?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. So, I was wondering, when you look at it, let's say the Blazers finish as a 14th seed.
Yep.
And, they get the first pick and they get Cooper Flag. I was wondering, how do you feel? Because that means if they get 14th seed, that means that Sharp and Scoot and Denny and Klingon, they all didn't really mesh well together and they had a really bad season. But you get Cooper Flag. How do you feel after that season, considering that they obviously didn't mesh well together, but you get Cooper Flag, so you have a high future? Do you feel good, or do you feel, that maybe you messed up on all the other draft picks and you messed up on the Denny trade?
That's an interesting question. Appreciate your question, man. Whoops, I just dropped my mic on my keyboard because my mic was broken. Apologies to everybody I just deafened out there. Yeah, I try not to touch my mic at all because my mic arm breaks and it flips it onto my keyboard. It's brutal. But so, okay, how I would answer this question is just, even if they are the 14th seed, it doesn't mean that it was a failure in terms of those specific prospects. Like, they can mesh well, but they're still so young in their careers that they still might not be good, especially if you trade the vets. So I wouldn't necessarily view being a 14th seed as a failure in terms of the prospects and the draft picks, because I just think, if they're getting 14th seeds 3 years from now, yeah, it's a failure. But right now, it's still so early that, especially under Chauncey Billups with his struggles as a coach, I don't necessarily view that as something that would automatically be a negative. Now, if they don't develop at all, don't improve, then it could be. But, just without the context, it's hard to answer that. If they get Cooper Flag, I think it's a good thing. Even if they have struggles this year, it's a great thing if they get Cooper Flag, because I think he's going to be phenomenal. I think he would immediately become like the top piece of the entire rebuild. So, even if these prospects, even if Sharp really took off this year, even if Simons like turned it around, played great, etc., I still think getting Flag would be the main piece going forward, the guy going forward. So I think getting him is just a win no matter what happens this year. But I think they can be really bad and it still be like a successful season in terms of developing the prospects and so forth. Eric, how would you answer that?
Yeah, a few things. One, we've talked about this before, but their seeding doesn't necessarily mean that they played bad or were a worse team or didn't improve at all. they could still be better and just not have as good of a record as a lot of teams in the West. Now it's looking like there's a couple teams like the Pelicans and stuff that
Uh-oh.
I wouldn't be like shocked if we finished 14th, but it's not necessarily because those guys didn't mesh and didn't play well together. And then on the positive side, I would say new coach coming in for sure if we're the 14th seed. So we'd have that hope of a new coach would help them fit better together, run better schemes to maximize their potential, and then also adding what should be a legitimate star to a group that could be pretty good if they had a star. I would say that I would be pretty much over the moon excited about the possibilities. It might not pan out. It's never guaranteed or anything, even if you have Cooper. But I would be really excited to know that we had a potential star. We still have the small possibility of one of our players breaking out on the roster too with him, and a new coach, new ideas, new system, all that kind of stuff. I would be pretty pumped in the off season, looking forward to next season.
Yeah, and then I also had one more question. It was just, so let's say if the Blazers, they do bad this year, but then they don't get a number 1 pick, they get a 2 or 3. Do you think about trading that pick for somebody who maybe isn't happy with their situation? Because when you look at it, you already have small forward because you traded 2 firsts and Malcolm Brogdon for Denny, so you hope that he can be you want him to be your starting small forward. You draft a point guard or shooting guard, you're ruining the development of Scoot and Shaden, and then you also already drafted Donovan Clean. So do you try to maybe, if you get a 2nd or 3rd pick, I know Ace Bailey's still there, but do you debate trading that pick for somebody who would probably want it more instead of maybe it ruining the development of your younger players?
I would answer that with this. It depends upon the age of said player as well as how good they are. Like, it depends on a bunch of things. And I think realistically there won't be anyone available that meets the criteria that should be needed to trade the pick. Right? Like, it would basically take the perfect player that's developed enough, probably already an all-star, that is young enough to be a part of the core going forward. The thing is players as they get older get more disgruntled if they don't have playoff success, right? Younger players are a little bit more patient, more team control on their contracts, right? So right now you see like Joel Embiid. Let's say the Sixers keep struggling and he wants a trade. I would not trade a pick for him, not because he's not very, very valuable, but it's too early, and I don't think this team contends by just adding Joel Embiid. I still think there's so many steps away that it would take some time to figure out, and by the time Embiid, and he's been injury prone, his injuries are taking a hold of him, and they're toll on him. By the time the Blazers would have enough around him to compete, he'd be falling off. So you basically would be kind of screwing yourselves over in terms of never being good enough out of this rebuild with Joel Embiid to win a championship, so to say. So that's the thing, is if they trade the pick for somebody that's really, really good, they have to be somebody that's still going to be the same level, 2-3 years from now, because it's going to take time to build up the rest of the team, develop the rest of the team around them.
Yeah. Okay.
Eric, would you add anything to that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, especially if in your scenario we're one of the worst teams in the West still, I would say that you can't look at it in those terms like you already have someone at that position. If there's someone at the 2nd or 3rd pick that you think is going to be a star or has, huge upside potential, which should be the case in this kind of draft, I think you just take them regardless of what position it is and figure it out later, because I don't think you have anyone that you could say, oh, we don't need a small forward because we have Denny, like you said. Like, people can play different positions. Denny, Chimani, those guys can form a trio of forwards after we trade Jeremy and all that kind of stuff. So, I don't think we necessarily need to figure that out before we draft, because that leads to mistakes like trading the pick
Eric, you
we
lagged out.
drafted Sebastian Lopez.
Eric, can you repeat yourself? You lagged out the past like 5-6 seconds.
I would say that leads to picks where we have a chance to get Chris Paul, and we trade it for Martell Webster because we already have Sebastian Telfair on the roster. Like we don't want to take those kind of risks right now to play it safe. I think we need to keep shooting for the stars, and you might keep missing, or someone you get might render a Denny to the bench or whatever if he's that good. But I think that's a good problem to have eventually if you have too many good players. So I would just stay and pick the best player that you think is on the board. And I mean, unless, like Tori said, if a perfect trade materializes and we get like a star player from a draft that's pretty recent to where he's not on a max contract yet or anything, I would consider that. But I'm more in favor of just keep shooting and taking shots at finding those stars at different positions and not worrying about what position they play yet.
Yep. If your forwards are so good that you're bringing Tamati Kamara off the bench in the future, that's a really good thing. So you shouldn't shy away from potentially getting a forward that's even better than Kamara because you have Kamara.
Yeah, that makes. Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for answering my questions.
Yep. Thanks for calling in.
Yep.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Yep. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye. All right. Eric, any final words? I gotta do some housekeeping after we get you off after I hang up the phone, the hypothetical phone that we're on here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on for a few minutes, and hope everyone has a good night, and look forward to watching the rest of the show later.
Yep, man. And it's a good game to watch back. The last time you weren't here, it was a really bad game to watch back, so this one's definitely better.
Right.
It was a fun game down the stretch, so thanks for, enjoy your drive back, drive safe. Don't check chat when you're driving.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right, so those were our call-ins. We're going to look ahead at the rest of the schedule here in a second, but once again, I want to give a shout-out to BetUS, the sponsor of this post-game stream. NFL football kicks off tomorrow in about 12 hours, so if you want to get in on that action, or college basketball, or NBA, make sure you check out BetUS. They serve all your sportsbook needs. Use promo code YouTube150 for 150% sign-up bonus, followed by two 125% deposit bonuses up to $2,000. Shout out to BetUS, where the game begins. Our phenomenal sponsor all season long. Now let's look ahead at the rest of the schedule. So, the Blazers play again on Monday. They play at the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, the event night for this is Picks Against the Spread Loser Challenge. And what that means is every Monday and Thursday, we go live on our second channel. It's called Blazers Uprise Podcast. And we pick the day's games. We go live right before the first game of the day. So usually it's around like 3:50 p.m. Pacific time, 6:50 p.m. Eastern. And we pick that day's games. We pick it with chat. We pick it with our mods. I make picks. Eric makes picks. Eric is leading Picks Against the Spread right now. But what I want to do occasionally this year is come up with a bet between me and Eric for a day that we pick games. And whoever does better between me and Eric wins. Whoever does worse between me and Eric has to do something. And it's like a bet. So we did this once before, and the loser had to eat the hottest Buffalo Wild Wing there was, with the hottest sauce on it from Buffalo Wild Wings. It's funny because we just talked about Buffalo Wild Wings. I lost that. It was during I forget. I think it was during the bubble. But I lost it. I had to eat the hottest Buffalo Wild Wing as being the loser of this challenge. So if you guys have any ideas for what the loser of Picks Against the Spread on Monday should do, let me know in the live chat. You can also let me know in the Discord. You can message me. Bouquet says, eat hot chip and lie. Eat a hot chip. See, we've done the hot thing before, and we can definitely save that for a future one. Shave beard. I'm going to do that actually probably tomorrow anyway. So, Don't need to dare me to do that. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas, shave off one eyebrow. Okay, we're not doing anything that bad. All right. It's supposed to be fun, not emotionally traumatizing. Let's see. All you guys just want to cut hair, shave beard, shave off eyebrow, cut your hair. Trevin says, I thought you just hadn't got around to eating it until during the season suspension, but it was still before the bubble. Yeah, and we maybe we'll carry out the dare on Wednesday, depending on what the dare is, because that is a early tip-off time, so the post-game show will be going while games will still be going on. Lakers tattoo, that's disgusting, man. That's disgusting. Face tattoo. It has to be realistic enough for us to do. Okay. Chat, you love to troll, so that's why we got stuff like drink a tablespoon of castor oil. Buy a GP2 jersey. Okay, hopefully how much do GP2 jerseys sell for? That would actually be you had to wear a GP2 jersey. David, what is wrong with you? I'll show that comment just so people can also ask what is wrong with David, because it's just weird. It's just weird, man. Mute that bozo, says loser wears an I love Danny t-shirt. Bro, that I would rather shave off an eyebrow. Adam Smith says, by the way, so Tori, how'd that dinner date bromance go from the wheel win? Oh, I haven't done it yet because I don't got free time. I'll probably do it next weekend. The thing is, the guy that won it has free shoes for me. David, I'm going to ban you if you keep saying that. The guy who won it is giving me free shoes, so I feel like I owe it to him in general. Anyway. This is what I get for asking chat to come up with stuff. I get stuff like eat your own. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it on stream. Not even going to say it. But yeah, if you guys come up with any ideas, if not, we can come up with ideas. But yeah, that's what's on tap for Monday. As the Blazers play the Memphis Grizzlies on the road. The Blazers have 2 more road games. And they get 1 home game against the Kings. And they're back on the road for a couple games. Luckily, in December, they have, I guess, more home games. I don't know. But, yeah, Monday, we'll have Picks Against the Spread live stream. We'll have post-game stream after the Memphis Grizzlies game. Wednesday, we'll unveil our first big board. I don't know if it's going to be top 10 or top 20. But Wednesday, after the Blazers take on the Pacers, that's an early tip-off time, 4 p.m. Pacific time, so we'll be live at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. That's 9:30 Eastern, so if you're on the East Coast, it actually works out a little bit better. And Thanksgiving's the next day, so you might have the night off. We will unveil our first big board of the season. Okay? And then on Friday, the Blazers come home. They play the Kings. That's an NBA Cup game, but those dreams are pretty much dead after last night. Unfortunately, the Blazers won this game instead of the other game. But on Friday, the Blazers play the Sacramento Kings. That is a game night in our Discord. I want to get together basically a poker lobby, Texas Hold'em, if any of you play. And the winner maybe gets something, and we can hop in a Discord voice call. We can hang out. We can play some Texas Hold'em, and the winner can get something. So that's a game night on Friday in our Discord. Make sure you join our Discord. Then we'll have a giveaway night December the 1st as the Blazers play the Mavericks. And then December the 3rd, the plan is to launch new merchandise. I have a design cooked up that I think is pretty cool. And we will launch some Blazers Uprise merch. There's some merch available below, but we plan on launching Blazers Uprise beanies on top of a couple other different merch designs that are, I don't know, some cool looking merch. So we'll announce that launch on the 3rd. That'll be fun. And then the Friday after that is a shot night. And hopefully I don't get too wasted again. So that's what we have on tap. Hopefully, are you guys enjoying the event nights? Are you guys enjoying mixing it up each post-game stream? Let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. If you guys like them, if you guys are enjoying the way we're mixing things up each post-game stream. Because ultimately we're just trying to keep things fresh, trying to keep things fun, trying to give you guys something to look ahead to. And that's just the goal with all of these, because the Blazers, they're rebuilding. At least they're winning right now. So 7-10. At least we have some more victories to talk about. So it's been fun doing post-game shows this year. I'm enjoying it. I got super burnt out last year, second half of the season, and I didn't know when that was going to happen this year. But I'm having a good time streaming for you guys. Appreciate you guys watching the show and supporting the channel. Riley wants more shot nights. I'll maybe find ways where we can have some fun on a non-shot night. I don't know, but I'm gonna keep coming up with ways to make streams fun, and that is ultimately the goal. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying the event nights, and I'm excited to talk about big boards on Wednesday. That's what I'm really excited for, and I started building mine, so be ready to talk prospects on Wednesday. With that being said, that's a wrap for this postgame show. The Blazers win 104-98, moved to 7-10 on the year. Anthony Simons silences the Rockets after the Blazers scuffle with Dylan Brooks, after Fred VanVleet curses out a ref and points in his face, after Alperen Şengün gets all salty, and Anthony Simons put the dagger in the Houston Rockets tonight after they started to throw a freaking tantrum. Poetry in motion. Good to see Anthony Simons have a good game. Good to see Jeremy Grant have a good game. Danny Avdija, huge plays. Good to see him shooting the ball better. And I think he still has another gear that he can take it to with this team. And we move on into the latter part of November. Looking forward to more stuff with this team, man. I've had a good time watching this team for the most part the past week and a half, and it's the first time I can say that in a long time. So hopefully they keep it up. Hopefully they keep improving the way they play. And I'm out of here. I'll catch you guys again on Monday with 2 streams. Hopefully you can catch us. If not, I'll catch you whenever you tune in next. Leave a like on the way out. Subscribe if you're new. And we're out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.